What's up, everyone? It's Justin from Creator Wizard. I am so excited to do a special live stream. We do this every Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, and I'm so honored to have a special guest today. Normally, I don't do live interviews like this, but I'm super stoked because today we have Liron Segev, and I'm so excited to have Liron on. He is a master. He has been at the YouTube game, at the social media game for a really long time. He has an incredible YouTube channel that focuses on making tech simple. And aside from growing his followers to 400,000 across YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, he's also a YouTube growth strategist. So he's working with some of the largest creators on the platform. And he also hosts the Influencer Green Room podcast. So not only does he understand the data, but he's also a creator himself. So welcome, Liron.
Hey, thank you for having me. Super excited. Brand deals is what I'm all about. So money, money, money. Let's do this.
Yeah, so let's talk about it. So why don't we start it off? Can you share a little bit about, why you started making videos on social media in general?
Yeah, so I've been blogging since like 2008. So it's been a while. And I was blogging before the word blog or influencer kind of came about. And I tell you that amazing, riveting story because I'm super lazy. And when I was starting to do this, I got to a point where people were asking me the same questions again and again and again. So I took the easy way out. I figured I know how to write HTML code. Let me just put up this website, answer these questions, and then send people links to that particular answer, right? And that's how I started. And then what happened was brands started kind of saying, hey, you sort of explaining our products better than we can. Let's start working together. Let's get you on a plane and get you to our various worldwide events, and you can kind of share that with your audience. So that's how it started. Now, YouTube wasn't on my radar at that stage. What I figured was, well, I'm at the event anyway. It'll be really cool to have some nice visuals. Instead of just taking still images, let me take video and let me just do an interview. And my thinking was, naively, I suppose, at that stage, well, if I just do the interview, it saves me writing an entire blog post. It's so simple. Yeah, not so much. So I started doing that. I realized that, hold on, YouTube's a whole other game. And then at that stage, I really was fascinated with the data, got like really geeked out about all that. And I started taking it much more seriously. And it became kind of almost a afterthought for my blog because my blog was my main thing. But slowly over time, I realized people would rather push play than read. So I kind of started taking that much more seriously and then really getting into it to help the two worlds to grow together. So I still have my blog that's still super critical. And then, of course, working really heavily on my YouTube channel. So one kind of leads into another.
So let's talk a little bit about that, like right away, actually. So just like, how do you think about diversification in general as a creator? I mean, obviously you can have income sources from a lot of different places, but as you know, if you've been on YouTube or even, a little bit familiar with, the demonetization or monetization challenges, algorithm, challenges that creators have had in general on YouTube. I think a lot more people are reverent to the fact that you need to like not put all your eggs in one basket in general. So how do you think about that?
More than I should, I suppose. Recently, I've had a bit of a disaster on my channel where YouTube mistakenly thought my channel was hacked and they basically yanked me out of the YouTube system altogether. And you want to see your heart stop when you see 0 views, ad revenue going down to 0. And this happens overnight. This just didn't take too long to happen. Fortunately, I managed to work with the YouTube team. They realized it was an error. They put me back in. But even those 3 or 4 days that took a real knock. I've worked with other channels that have taken 2-3 months out of circulation whilst they fixed whatever the issue was. One channel went from making over $150,000 a month to 0 overnight. Talk about kind of diversification, right? So one thing that's super important is to remember, as much as we love YouTube, we're still building our castle on somebody else's land. Mm-hmm. Their rules, their regulations, they can do whatever they want at any stage, and they're kind enough to share revenue with us. We have to be grateful. Right. We just don't own it, right? So for me, retaining the blog is super critical. And if you don't have a blog now, is it easy to start one? Absolutely. And there's other values in doing a blog because you can diversify your brand deals across multiple platforms, and we'll dive into that as well, I'm sure. But the idea is that once you own your own platform, like a blog, you're in charge of your notifications. You're in charge of your audience. You can generate a mailing list. You have direct access to your audience. And that is always super, super important. It should be the number one thing. As much as we have subscribers on YouTube, realistically, we cannot push a button and say, hey, everybody, thanks for subscribing. I just want to let you know about this cool new thing that I'm doing. You simply cannot do that. But on a mailing list, you've got direct access. Justin, doesn't matter how many new platforms come out. There's one thing that every single platform needs to sign up, and that's email. It's the one application that's been said it's going to die very soon. It certainly isn't. And that's why it's super important. So I have YouTube. I have my blog. I have IGN. I've got, TikToks and all that good stuff. But the one thing I'm really kind of focusing on is growing my mailing list, retaining my blog presence for SEO value and pushing more traffic, and everything kind of works together. But I would never tell someone just to focus on one thing. It's just way too dangerous.
So I want to talk about, I don't know if you can see this. I actually posted this a couple hours ago on Instagram, and this is a graphic where it's basically talking about diversification. And essentially, like, if you are essentially trying to split your time, because I think a lot of creators feel this. It's like, if I devote only 100% of my time, is there an opportunity cost where I'm like missing out opportunities on these other platforms? And I really want to get your take on this, which is that, do you think that if you just focus on everything that you're just average at everything? Or because like one comment on this post was like, I am going all in on YouTube, but a lot of the brand partners that I want to work with seem to like want to work on Instagram, for example. So it's like, I'm feeling very spread thin, where it's like, I don't know where to focus because my passion is YouTube, but the brands seem to want to like work on Instagram. So what is your take on like how you should be thinking about diversification and like whether you should, like, with the percentages of buckets that you should spend your time?
Okay, so here is a very unpopular opinion. Your content creation isn't about you. Shocker, I know. It's about an audience. If your audience is a TikTok audience, then be where your audience is. If your audience is an Instagram audience, then be where Instagram is. If your audience wants long-form content, deep catalog, then you should be on YouTube. It's about the audience first. It's about the audience only. Because without the audience, there is no brand deals. Without the audience, nothing else kind of matters. So you really need to understand your avatar. Who are you speaking to? What kind of content do you have? What kind of value you're offering? You have to nail that first. It's amazing to me how many people go out, create these amazing bits of information, share lots of value, but they're not growing, and they get super frustrated. YouTube hates me. The algorithm hates me. TikTok hates me. Instagram hates. Everybody hates me. Nobody hates you. They hate content that sucks. If you start to focus about your audience and you know how to deliver value to that one person, that one avatar, that's when magic really happens. Because now you know where that avatar is, where that person is, where are they hanging out, what kind of things really speaks to them. And now you can start delivering value directly to that. That's when the magic really starts to happen. So should you be on everything? And probably not. Should you experiment with things? Absolutely. Because don't forget, recently we've got YouTube Shorts, new kid out the block. Instagram Reels, everybody wants in on that. Clubhouse, everybody wants in on Clubhouse. And now Twitter Spaces, and LinkedIn is doing a drop-in audio system. There are 29 of these audio systems like Clubhouse. Do you have to go beyond all of them? Definitely not. Pick the stuff that you're strong at, but also remember where is your audience. If they're hanging out on YouTube, cool, go in on YouTube, but don't neglect the other places as well. I don't think there's a percentage kind of breakdown per se, like this is the magic formula. I think once you understand your avatar, that's kind of where you really start to blow up.
What do you think is the best way to do that, to understand your avatar?
So there's a couple of ways. So why are you creating content? For what? YouTube is kind of divided into, well, I suppose all platforms are divided into probably two categories. There are those that are for entertainment, and they're all for education. So once you have to start there. Like, are you going to teach someone, or are you going to entertain them? Are you going to do pranks, or are you going to teach them how to unclog their toilet when it gets clogged? You're like, what's your value? Where do you bring? Once you understand that, then it's okay. Well, who needs this? Let's go work that out. So the information is already available in your data, in your analytics. It's got your demographics, it's got your ages, it's got your location, where they're coming from. But that's kind of the tip of the iceberg. You really need to dive in even more into the psychographics. Why are they there? What are they looking for? How much time do they have to spend? I'll give you an example on my channel, and maybe that kind of helps solidify how clear I have to be. So on my channel, I've got a technology channel, and my channel, the person that I make a video for, I make it for only one person. And everybody kind of who's been following me for a while knows his name's Alex. So it's a male. Alex is between 25 and 45 years old. Alex is married with kids. Alex has got money to spend, but not going to buy the latest gear and toys just because they're out. Alex wants to learn how to do this stuff, not just simply follow like sheep, like click here, click here, click here. He wants to actually understand. But Alex doesn't have a lot of time. So that's my Alex. And the reason I have Alex, I've even got a picture of dear Alex on the wall. The reason I have that, because every time I make a video, every time I think about creating content, I look up and I go, will Alex watch? Is this for Alex? So I'm never going to make a 15-minute video or a 20-minute video or a 30-minute video, because Alex has only got 5 to 7 minutes a day to watch the stuff. I'm never going to showcase the $5,000 item, because my Alex doesn't buy that kind of product. So you see how I use that as a filter, and I get that information from the comments. I get that information from my community tab. I get the information from IG when I ask questions. I'm always testing to understand the audience, because if you get that right, everything else just kind of becomes magic.
Super interesting. And by the way, if you want more of these gems, Liron does consulting. Clearly, he's full of information like this. So you can go to lironsegev.com to hire him, because clearly he knows his stuff. He's been doing this a long time. He does this, for a living. So let me ask you about like your first brand deal, because I think a lot of creators, we have a lot of like aspiring creators who haven't really done a lot of paid brand partnerships. Maybe they've done. Maybe they have like gotten some free products, for example, in exchange for a review, but they haven't really been like compensated, right? So, like, can you walk us through like how you thought through that process in the beginning, and like how you figured out what you were doing, with some of the mistakes that you learned along the way, that type of thing?
Absolutely. So let's talk about the different types of brand deals, just to kind of set the mood.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so you have the first brand deal is when a brand reaches out to you and they say, hey, we'd love your work, and we'd love to send you this thing. And as a creator, you get super excited because I'm getting a free product. And that's amazing. And there's nothing wrong with that. Stop watching Twitter. There's nothing wrong with getting free products. It's going to give you content. It's going to give you exposure. But, with a big but, make sure it's for your audience. So somebody reached out to me the other day saying, we've been watching your channel for quite a while. We love it. And I think this new makeup remover will go really well with your audience. I'm not going to go for that deal, funny enough, right? So know your audience, and therefore, does this fit? So step number one is getting free products. The question is, how do you go from free to paid? And that's always the struggle.
Mm-hmm.
People need to realize that there isn't a magic number. There isn't, I don't know why I'm using the word magic all of a sudden a million times today, but there isn't that number. You don't have to have 100,000 subscribers and therefore you can do brand deals, or 40,000 followers on Instagram and therefore you can do a brand deal. I did my first brand deal with less than 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. How did I do that? I did that by showing a brand that I have an audience. And that's all that brands want. They want access to an audience. Micro influencers are now the hottest things because they get to pay less, but they still get value out of micro influencers. Mm-hmm. There's like a saying that I think I tweeted at the other day, saying that brands know your worth. They just pray to God that you don't know your worth. Right? And I think that's super important to understand. They reached out to you because they want access to your audience. And therefore, you should be able to charge for that. Now, how much? What's the deal made up of? How does that work? There's a whole bunch. So, and again, I'm happy to unpack that. But so it goes free product to paid, and then the ultimate one is recurring, where you have the same brand coming in. You have a 12 months contract with them. You do one video a month, and then you structure that deal accordingly. The most important thing is showing return on the investment. If you ever want to go from free product to actual money into your hands, you have to be able to prove that you can sell.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be able to prove that people actually click on links. That is what the brand wants from you. If you can prove that, if you can show a brand, for every dollar you give me, I'll give you back $3. How many? They'll write you lots of checks because they're getting 3 times that amount. But you got to be able to prove it. As a small creator, you're going, well, how do I prove this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a simple way to do it is to start using affiliate accounts. So you can go sign up for Amazon affiliate, for Target affiliate, Walmart affiliate. In fact, international brands all have their affiliate programs as well. Sign up for those. The aim of this is, of course, you'll make money when people click on your link, but I'm doing it for a different reason. I did that in order to get the data, because I can now go back to a brand and say, hey, I did a campaign last month. We got so many clicks, which translated into so much revenue. And now I can show you that I have an audience that's willing to click. I have an audience that's willing to buy. That's what a brand wants.
Mm-hmm.
How do you go from free product to paid? Show them that you're worth it. In your media kit, which I hope everyone has one by now, but if your media kit, you're showing those stats, you're showing those results, you're showing your avatar, you're showing Alex, right? You're showing the age and you're showing the demographics and the language that they speak and the fact that they're clicking. That's what a brand wants. Mm-hmm. Your job is to make sure that the person that you're working with on the brand side or that you're pitching to doesn't get fired for writing you a check. And the only way to do that is to minimize the risk as much as possible by showing so much value that you've done for somebody else that they go, okay, well, this seems like a safe bet. And they'll start small and they'll scale it up when they see returns. Sorry, long-winded answer, but
no, I love it. And I wanted to highlight a couple comments from the chat because Lila, for example, said that she got her first brand deal at 1,400 subs. Right. So like you said, you don't need to have 100,000 followers to get brand opportunities. And another thing that I really liked that Dian Fam said was that she said, I was just approached for a teleprompter deal and I turned it down because I don't ever use it and my audience doesn't need it. I asked them if they'd like to consult with me or have any other products. So like, you were talking about, you can turn brand partnerships that may not be a good fit for your channel or your audience necessarily into an opportunity to get paid to help them consult to find their ideal creator, right?
Yeah, and again, it's like, I mean, for those, people don't know who Leela is, definitely go check out her channel. She's absolutely amazing creator, and you'll see how she's progressed over the years and how she's started to engage with brands and does more and more and more because she's found her voice and her audience loves her. And therefore, the brands want to get in on that action. And I love what Dian Fan said, that this isn't a good fit. Don't be afraid to reply back with, hey, this isn't a good fit. This is what I'm currently focusing on. Do you have something in that category? Because remember, a lot of these companies work with multiple products across multiple niches, across multiple industries. And maybe you're not a good fit for the teleprompter, but they're a technology backend, and maybe you are a good fit for something else. They'll pass your name on. So don't be afraid to ever go back and say, this isn't a good fit, but here is what I am focusing on. Here's my media kit that's attached. That media kit is your spokesperson inside that company. Because if that gets forwarded around to other people, somebody else is going to find value in there and maybe reach out to something to you that's more of a fit. We have this kind of halo effect of we thinking they've reached out to me. I don't want to be rude. I don't want to kind of push back. Nonsense. They're doing their job. You have a business to protect, so you need to do yours.
Yeah. No, I love that. I think that's super smart. pardon me. One thing I thought might be a little fun is to talk about some recent partnerships that you've done. Oh my goodness. So, you could kind of walk us through how that deal came to fruition, kind of how it was constructed. Because something you've talked about is that you do deals on all your different platforms, right? So you do YouTube integrations, and then you do blog partnerships and things like that. So I thought that might be a kind of an interesting thing to talk about. So first of all, let's pull up this deal that you recently did with Rockspace, right?
Right.
So walk us through this deal. Like how did this thing come to light?
Okay, so Rockspace is essentially a type of router, and they reached out to me to say, we've got this new product. Can we send it to you? So I'm going to give you a couple of magic again. I don't know what's up with that word. Okay, I'm going to give you
it's a magical day.
Something. I'm going to give you a couple of words that you need to stick into your replies. So here's what I did. When I got that email, I replied. It was a free product, remember? I don't want free products. I have enough routers. I want them to get paid. So I replied back and I said, thank you very much for reaching out. It's amazing. I've had a look at the product. It looks like it's a good fit.
Mm-hmm.
How much? Okay, here it comes, right? How much budget have you assigned to this campaign? That's the sentence. How much budget, or what's the budget for this campaign?
Mm-hmm.
When you reply with that, it immediately says, hey, I'm going to get paid. Budget. Campaign means it's not your first rodeo. You've done this before. You know that this is how the brands work. You know that this is about exposure. When you reply with that sentence, either they'll reply back saying, oh, sorry, no budget. We can send you the free product, and then you can make a decision. Or they'll come back with a number, and that number is either going to be right, it's going to be low or high, and you kind of start negotiating those terms. So in this particular case, free product, say thank you very much, but no thanks. How much budget do you have assigned to this campaign? Then they replied back with the whole, oh, well, we work with lots of influencers and nobody's ever asked us for money beyond the product. So I was happy to walk away. Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, I live in a world where free routers do not pay for my editor or my thumbnail designer or my script writer. Unfortunately, they still want to get this thing called cash. And the moment that my local grocery stores starts to accept routers in exchange for coverage, I'm very happy to come back to this deal. And they came back going, oh, well, what we meant was, well, there wasn't an upfront, but if you do 50%, and then we kind of started the ball rolling. If you can walk away from a deal, you're super powerful. If you're at their mercy, well, then they're forever going to do that. So I will obviously show you the extreme example. With this particular one, it was more of a, hey, look, unfortunately, we don't do a free product in exchange for coverage. Our stuff is pretty in depth. We spend lots of time and effort into this. We do proper research. We don't just simply put something up we're not your marketing arm, essentially. And they came back and I said, cool, well, let's do it. How much, what do you need? What's your rate card? And then we kind of started taking it from there. So that's one example.
Super interesting. And let's talk about this next example. This is a slightly different type of partnership that you have on your blog. And this was with NordVPN, right?
Yeah.
So you've got, for example, this banner over here on the right. You've special graphic. It's a techie guy special deal. So how did this come about, and how big of a role do you see affiliates playing in your overall business?
So everything plays, right? The way this particular one came about was I saw that in my comments it was a pretty topic that came up a lot, about VPNs. What's the best VPN? What's the cheapest VPN? All of those just came up. So I decided that every time I did research into VPN, it was typically sponsored by the VPN company. So I'm not so sure that you can be that objective if you're being paid by one VPN, because amazingly, that VPN always came up on top. So I did a YouTube video. Sorry, let me take a step back. So I wanted to work with NordVPN, but I wasn't going to reach out to them and say, hey, sponsor my video, because then I would be yet another one of those that says, hey, NordVPN is amazing. So what I did was I decided this is a long-term play. I created a video testing 10 VPNs to see which one will come on top. Now, I was genuinely interested because I'm about to buy this VPN. I was doing it for myself. And I thought if I'm doing it, somebody else might be interested. So I tested 10 different VPNs, and NordVPN was on top. Excuse me. So on that, I then reached out to NordVPN and said, hey, just FYI, here's a link to the video. Well done. Good job. I have just purchased your 24 months kind of account. So again, my money, they had nothing to do with anything at all. It was completely my view of it. And I showed test results. So, I mean, you can see it. They then reached out to say, hey, we loved it. Can we start working together? Now, I offered them a deal on the channel. They kind of came countered with a ridiculously low number. And then it was ridiculously low number. And they wanted exclusivity for like 12 months or whatever it was. And I said, look, that's what I do for a living. You can't lock me in for that. So we came to a compromise. And I said, I'll tell you what, let me get a referral and affiliate deal from you. I'm going to stick it on my blog. And it's going to live there. And then anyone time somebody clicks on it, I get, and they buy your service, I get some money, you get a new customer, everybody's happy, very low, like very low maintenance, no heavy lifting, and that was fine. My view with this is to show them that it generates revenue for them. Once I show them that it generates revenue, because of course I put those affiliate links back into my original program, they then reached out again and to say, okay, yes, we realized that there is value. What we offered you wasn't the right amount. Now we in discussion to see whether there is something to do. And they may not be, and that's fine too. But it was just one of those things that I had to show that it works. I wasn't going out to find the NordVPN. I was going to go out and find the best VPN for my dude, Alex. And Nord happened to be the best VPN, so I reached out to them. Interesting kind of side story on that. On that particular video, what I also did was I said, look, we're not going to have an opportunity to go through every feature of every VPN on this video. It'll be a 2-hour video, remembering that Alex doesn't watch long videos, right? So what I did was I created a Google Sheet where I compared all the VPNs against each other. I did a link in the description when I said, hey, if you want the full comparison, click on that link, enter your email address, and you get access, and then I'll basically email you a copy of this Google Sheet. And it's built my mailing list. So I did the work anyway. I was doing it in my own notes. I just made it easy for anybody else to get access to it whilst building my mailing list. So a 2-for-1 situation.
I love it. And, one of the gems that I think I pulled out of that I pulled up on the screen was that, you can create organic content and then approach the brand about an authentic partnership. I think a lot of creators think that you just have to sit on your hands and wait till a brand emails you on your inbox, right? And you illustrated here that you actually took the opportunity of you have this great piece of content where you're not just reaching out and being like, hey, I love your brand, let's partner. It's no, you actually have already done the work, created a content. They can already see the comment section about what people are talking about the video, right? So it's this very authentic thing that you're reaching out about. And that just skyrockets the chances of forging a partnership when you go to that extra mile.
Well, remember that you're there. What I said at the beginning, it's not about me, it's about my viewer. So I know that this is the kind of thing that my viewer would genuinely wants to know about. So that was my priority. I then created the content for the viewer. The fact that it happened to lead into the brand deal, amazing. Mm-hmm. But my viewer comes first. So people say, where do we start with brand deals? So cool. What phone have you got? What car do you drive? What's your favorite restaurant? That's something that you genuinely go to. And depending on your niche, that could be the place that you start mentioning them. Now, what people need to remember is that brands have something called ORM, online reputation management. They need to know what are people saying about them, both the positive and the negative. If you start talking about a specific brand and start tagging them and in your post, it gets to a point where they may reach out to you and say, hey, we see you love our product. Can we send you some free stuff? And a perfect example is I love my coffee. I got a gift from a friend of mine, and there's a company called Cometia. It's a specialized coffee that you
yes.
frozen. Oh, it's amazing. I got this thing. I genuinely loved it. I wasn't doing it for any other reason except that I loved it. I then did an Instagram post with this showing how to kind of, it melts the coffee into the cup, and I did a tweet. I then get a DM from Cometeer saying, hey, loved your post. Could we send you something? And they did. They sent me a whole bunch of free coffee. Like, hey, I'm all up for that. Thank you. That wasn't the intention. I genuinely loved the coffee. And they could see that, and therefore it kind of made sense. And then they reached out to me. Companies and brands need to know what people are saying. So if you start tagging those brands, it's a lot easier to reach out. So one cool add-on tip from that, if you want to work with a company and you start tagging them, a very, very easy way to get your foot through the door, reach out to that company and say, hey, I did an Instagram post or an Instagram poll, and this is the results from my audience about your brand. I don't want anything from you. I just want a referral code. Or I just want a 5% discount or a coupon. Now, brands typically have these coupons available. If they do that for you and you can start showing that you're bringing in value, it's a lot easier to go to the next step saying, hey, we did the coupon thing. Look how many clicks you got. Look how much merchandise you've sold. Let's forge a relationship. So as opposed to just cold calling and say, hey, let's work together, give you money. This way, this code thing works like magic.
Right. Yeah. So I think like one thing that I think is really critical here, and I'd love to talk about, is that it sounds like you do quite a bit of like outbound messages to brands, right? So you're not just like sitting on your hands and waiting for this to happen. So like, what is your, like, I'm curious, like at this point in your creator career, like is most of your deal flow inbound now that you have like achieved a certain critical mass of like number of followers, number of subscribers, or like, do you still see it being a really meaningful part of your business is like going out and like kind of hunting for authentic partnerships?
So good question. For me, it's a lot of it does come inbound, but I should absolutely be doing more of the outbound side, especially if I want those bigger deals that would last more than just a once-off video, more than a once-off shout out. If I want those relationships, I absolutely should be doing much more of those. It's all amazing when people reach out to you because you're in the powerhouse. You can kind of drive that deal. I mean, they did approach you after all. But if you really want to be strategic, identify the people that you want to work with, and then what kind of value can you bring them? What kind of value can you bring their audience? And then start doing that active reach out. Am I doing that effectively now? Absolutely not. Should I be doing it? For sure. You just got to kind of balance. Inbound deals are great, but they usually pay less. Sorry, one more time. Inbound deals are great because they obviously arrive at you, and because they reached out to you, you can charge a higher premium for that because they saw value in you. Outbound deals, you're more based on their budget and their campaigns. But if you can show value, then you can drive the deal as well. But it is, to answer your question in a very long-winded way, it is a combination of the two. One or the other is not more successful. I absolutely should be doing more outbound stuff, no question.
Let's this is a perfect segue to something I wanted to talk about. So first of all, by the way, obviously it's very clear now that Liron has been on fire this entire time. And if you want to hear him talk more about this stuff, he actually has a podcast I mentioned at the top, but I just wanted to show it real quick. It's called the Influencer Green Room, and it's with my good friend Benji as well. And so, definitely, I just listened to this episode yesterday about should influencers work with managers and talent agents. And in fact, Matt in the chat had this same question. Sounds like Liron needs an agent, right? And so I wanted to talk about this piece in particular because I think this is something that a lot of creators ask about, especially like if I want to focus on my craft, right? I really love creating content and I don't really want to have time. I don't have time to like go out there and do all this cold pitching. I'm at a point where I'm not getting a ton of inbound deal flow. So it's like, what is like, how can I even find a manager? Is it worth it? You had a lot of really interesting things to say in this podcast episode. So I really do encourage everyone to go listen to it, but would love for you to kind of summarize some of your thoughts on like, whether you think having a manager is really worth it.
So I think there's a couple of things here. Where do we begin? Okay, so there is a manager and then there's an agent, and the two are not the same thing. So if you've got someone who is a manager, it's someone that you can say, look, I don't want to deal with this stuff. You deal with all this, you deal with the brands, you deal with the admin, you for W9, you get to make sure that everyone's on track, everyone knows what's going on. I'm just the creative. I'll just basically do what I do best. You do what you do best, and I'm happy to pay a monthly fee for it. I'm happy to pay a percentage of the deal. Just take all this crap off my hands. Okay. That's the one side. You do get like a talent agent, which is someone that says, okay, look, we think we can get you onto a TV show. We think we can get you onto Netflix. We think we can get you onto whatever it may be. Let me go work out a deal for that. And then they get a cut out of that. I have no problem paying someone a percentage out of something that they bring for me.
Right.
But it's got to be a fit. Whatever route you go, it's got to be a good fit. And it's got to be, you have to decide, do you want to be exclusive or non-exclusive, right? Some companies and some agencies that you deal with say, we'll happily take you on, but you cannot do a single brand deal yourself. It's got to go through us.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, again, upside and downside. The upside, you don't have to do anything. They're doing it for you. And typically they do negotiate a higher rate because then you do have the good cop, bad cop situation. Like somebody could offer you $1,000 to do a deal. They'll counter a 10, and that's not you countering. It's them countering.
Mm-hmm.
And they come back, oh, we can't do 10, but we can do 5. And then they go, well, I spoke to my client and the best that they can do is 6. Okay, fine. So you land up on 6, but you started at 1, right? So I'm happy to pay a percentage out of that as well. So you do have lots of value, but exclusive versus not exclusive. If you're going to do lots of deals and you currently have relationships, why should you bring that back into the pot unless they're offering extra value? Mm-hmm. Unless they're saying, oh, you're grossly undercharging blank. You should be charging this. Let's renegotiate that deal for you. Okay, again, happy to chat. Right. But the other good thing, or the other thing you need to look out for, is it a good fit? So I've tried working with agents, with managers and agents. The problem is that I didn't have a good fit. What I do on my channel is not just technology. It's a very specific niche in technology. And the deals that they were kind of proposing were this generic kind of stuff that you see online all the time, Wix and Squarespace and Skillshare, and which everybody does in my industry. And to me, that wasn't a good fit. What I'm looking for is someone to say, okay, give me the 10 brands you want to work with. We're going to go and hunt those deals for you. And then kind of, how did Larry phrase it? We kill what we eat, what we kill, right?
I think we kill what we hunt, or hunt what we kill, or something. Eat what we kill, yeah.
Right. So that's the kind of, so that would make sense to me. Like, hey, go find me the Best Buys of the world, the micro centers, that whoever it may be, and I'm very happy to work with someone like that, because now it's such a good fit. My audience will love it, and that's the important bit. So should people be working with agents and talent managers? Again, depending on your circumstances. Are you able to close deals? Are you even interested in doing that? Is that like, some people absolutely love those negotiations. Other people just want to focus on their business. So you kind of got to weigh all these things up, but go in there eyes wide open and really kind of just be aware what you're getting into. And for the love of God, do not sign up with an MCN.
I've been in many MCNs over the years, and fortunately we've had relatively good experiences, but it wasn't the makers or the full screens of the world, or the broadband TVs or whatever. We were in smaller MCNs, and purposefully. So interestingly, about the whole exclusive thing, we actually struck a pretty unique deal with one of our MCNs where it was non-exclusive, and essentially we just had like a shared spreadsheet where we were out there pitching deals for ourselves. And we would just, every time we would like enter into a negotiation or we got something inbound, we would just like add it to the list, and then they could see it so that it wasn't like a conflict, right? But not everyone is going to be willing to do a partnership like that. But the one thing I'm wondering from your perspective is like, because there are obviously managers out there, not every manager is going to be willing to go to bat for you and do all that legwork unless they really do see a long-term potential in you, whether either you've already achieved a certain critical mass in terms of following, you already have a certain amount of deal flow, so you're proven from a monetization perspective that you're marketable and monetizable and things like that. But I think what a lot of up-and-coming creators struggle with is like they don't really understand, like it's going to be more difficult for them to get a manager or something who's going to only work off of commission if they have 2,000 followers or something, right? Because it's going to be much more difficult for them to actually get them business, right? So I guess the caveat that I want to mention is that you probably do have to achieve a certain level of success, I guess you could say, or marketability before you'll able to get someone to believe in you in that regard, in that way.
Totally. The one thing I will mention is that they're looking for stability. So if you're showing that you are able to deliver, you've been doing it for a long time, and when they look at your kind of YouTube videos, if it's YouTube, they want to see what your average video views are for the last 10 videos or the last month. And they want to see some stability. So they want to know that when they go to pitch you for a brand deal, they want to make sure that they could go to the brand deal and say, look, we can probably bank on getting 10,000 views for your video or 50,000 views for whatever the number is. So to your point, yes, you do have to have some clout behind you before you can approach it, but it shouldn't be the first thing that creators think of it. There are a lot of do-it-yourself agencies or systems like online that you can go and sign up, and there are loads and loads of these brands which have listed their products and how much they're willing to pay. And yes, it's going to be much, much smaller, but it's a great way to start getting paid and getting your feet wet, kind of trying to work out all this brand deals and what's involved and contracts and legals and kind of the ups and downs of that before you go out and start kind of pitching the big people. So definitely worth doing. It's not a route for everyone. I mean, I know lots of people. I mean, I work with lots of people that are in the multi-million subscriber range with millions of views on their videos. They don't have an agency. They just work in-house. They've got somebody that they've hired just to do this. Right. So you don't have to do it. I think agents, managers bring great value if you need that kind of value in your team, or if you got that gap in your team. Absolutely. It's like getting an outside video editor or a designer. If you love doing it and it's not taking up time and it's part of your creative flow, fine. But if it's a block, then
let's actually talk about that, because I think that it is very important to split hairs here. I mean, I've talked about this before, which is that I think a lot of creators, they get to a certain point where it's like they think they need a manager or they think they need an agent. Right. And my argument has always been, well, like, is it really the manager, or do you just need help? Right. Like maybe you need to hire an editor, or maybe you need to hire a virtual assistant, or maybe you need to hire someone to, because I think a lot of creators, they get to this point where it's like they just feel so overwhelmed with the content creation hamster wheel, and feeling super spread thin. And so it's like my exercise is always like, okay, like let's look at all the different areas of your life that are taking up time, that are causing stress to you, right? And so it's like, okay, is it a manager? If it's just like this whole brand deal thing that's really stressing you out, or career development strategy, that kind of thing, maybe a manager or an agent is the right call. But if it's like you're just spending 80% of your time editing your videos, and I think this problem is particularly pointed for YouTubers, especially because like editing is just so laborious, right? And so like it really, my wife, bless her heart, like I would never be in this space at all if it wasn't for her. She started her channel like 11 years ago. So it's like I was thrust into this space because of her, right? So it's like from my perspective, like I was always just like, yeah, let's hire an editor. Like I was like, let's hire an editor ASAP. But for her, it was much more about creative control. And that was like very difficult. She finally did, after many years, like hire editors and things like that. But it took a long time for her to like be comfortable with that. So it's like, I think for certain types of creators, there are certain things that they do in their business that I think are important to reflect on, about maybe it's not this thing that you think you need. Maybe it's something else that would alleviate a lot of the stress you're feeling.
Totally agree. And again, I think that it's very hard to let go, because it's your baby, right? You're trying to nurture this thing, and you're building it up, and you've got a routine, and then you're trying to think, how can somebody else get into my head and produce it the way that I want to? And you kind of really struggle letting go. at a certain point, you'll find that you are the blocker of getting more brand deals. You are the blocker of creating more content because you're so insistent on spending 17 hours trying to edit a video or creating a thumbnail that those 17 hours could be worth spending on your business or building a mailing list, writing another blog post, creating another video, pitching another brand. But no, you're spending it doing that. What a good friend Evan Carmichael says, like, do you want to be known as the best editor, or do you want to be known as the best at what you do in front of the camera? That's the question. Be known as the best editor, then edit. Go for it. Do your thing. If you want to be known as the best in front of the camera, find ways to outsource it. It's cheap. It's available from overseas. You can work with lots of amazing creators or amazing editors. Give them lots of instructions. It will take time. But when they get that right, oh, it's magic. One of the companies, one of the people that I work with, they do daily videos, daily. There's no way they could do it and edit. They've got a routine. They shoot, it gets uploaded to a Dropbox or a Google Drive, editor picks it up, edits overnight because they're in another country, wake up in the morning, they've got the first draft. They go into a system called Frame.io. They make little notes on the various frames, move this, make this louder, make this softer, blah, blah, blah. 10 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour later, they've got a video that's ready to upload.
Mm-hmm.
And whilst they're filming, somebody else is working and they're able to produce daily content. It's going back to what you said about the business and like, what do you need? It's a typical Bob the Builder situation. And what I mean by that is, Bob is a builder. Bob works for a company. Bob is tired of seeing all these big checks go to Bob's boss. So Bob creates his own company, and he's now Bob the Builder. But Bob is a builder. He's not a marketer. He's not an accountant. He's not a business person. He doesn't know about taxes and what you can write off. And he's a builder. That's what Bob does. And Bob's business fails because he hasn't been able to fill those other roles. As creators, we're the same thing. We want to create content. We want to provide value. We want to engage with our audience. Do we want to know which form needs to be filled in on which government website and the taxes, and now YouTube changes the rules, and now what do we do? And do we want to do the editing and the thumbnail? Those are just elements in making up your business. Don't be afraid to outsource them and experiment and find people on lots of good websites like Fiverr. I use a company called Howling Assistant as my VA. They just do a lot of my stuff that I just don't want to do, and somebody else can do it for me. And they're not expensive, and it's well worth it for me not to have my time just focus on this one little thing.
Yeah, I was just pulling up. So for those of you who aren't familiar, I have used Upwork.com very successfully over many years for hiring several editors. So this is, as Liron was mentioning, is a fairly inexpensive way you can find people overseas, and so I wanted to highlight a couple other comments, which I think are pretty important here in the chat. So the first one, let me find it real quick again. Here. So Fernanda said that one of the comments I get the most often is, I love the editing, so I'm scared to give it up. But she says, it takes forever. Right. So, the thing the reason I want to comment, actually, we had a couple other comments in here. Ashley also mentioned that I don't know what it is about editing, but it's the hardest to give it up. And the comment that I would make about this is that, what you think, like, I think the biggest obstacle for most creators is that you think that it'll be hard to teach someone your style, right? Or your style of whether it's videos or photo editing or whatever type of creator you are, or blog, even like a copywriter or ghostwriter or something for blog posts, things like this. It's like, how can I even teach someone to do that, right? And in the beginning, and then it's like, well, it's just going to take too much time to teach them. And so I'll just do it myself, right? And so that is just that perpetuates. So you'll always think that, right? And so I think I would challenge folks who are in this, listening to this right now, that you'd be surprised how little time, if you find the right person, how little time it'll actually take for someone to teach your style. And I have a little trick of something that I recommend to creators to do this, is that I recommend hiring, relative to your budget, 3 to 5 editors and give them all the same footage. and basically say, edit this, give them some instructions, but you basically say, give me an edited video back and see who does the best and hire the one that does the best. And so, like I said, if your budget allows to do that, I have found that to be a very successful way to like actually find successful candidates. And the way that like Upwork and some of these other freelance sites work is you can create a job and just have a bunch of people apply or invite people to apply. And then you just like hire, a couple people for this one job. And then you just move forward with the people that are that do the best job.
Just on that, Justin, what's really cool to do is take a video that you have already edited and then give them the raw footage, not the edited version, so that you can compare what they can do compared to what you did.
Yes.
Obviously, give them guidelines. I mean, it'll be very unrealistic for you to say, hey, make this epic, right? Because their version was going to be different to yours. So give them some guidelines and work with them to massage it, because you want this thing to work. Imagine being able to have, out of the 3 people that applied, 3 of them are really awesome. Okay, nothing wrong with that. You've got backups. You're able to produce more content. You want this thing to work, not fail. So help make it work and really give them good guidelines. That this is the style. This is the pacing. These are some examples that I need this to work like. And then let them do their thing. They're not going to get it all right, let's be honest, but they're going to get it fairly darn close. And I'll tell you what I love about this the most. It makes you realize that no matter how amazing you think your editing is and how amazing you think you cannot outsource this, because nobody on this planet can do the same work as you can, you'll realize here are 3 random people that can. And as soon as that kind of triggers in your mind, you go, you know what? Maybe I should outsource it. You know what? Maybe I should outsource my thumbnail and my graphics. Maybe I should outsource other elements so I can just focus on being awesome.
It is your zone of genius, right? Where should you be focusing on as a creator? Like, where are you going to be the most transformative in your business, like you said? And I want to give a quick shout out to Aubrey in the chat here. Her handle is Girl's Guide to the Drugstore, because Aubrey is my editor. And I started working with Aubrey. I was working with some other folks, and I just wanted like some more sophisticated editing. And she mentioned here that one of my first editing clients had a hard time letting me edit her videos. It took me a year to convince her to hire me, and I already knew her in real life. So it can be very challenging to let go of it. But when you find the right person, it can be transformative. And, like, I can speak specifically to this, which is that like Aubrey's edit, like there are certain people who just see things in a more creative way than you do. Like, I think I have a certain vision, but it's like when you see someone else bring it to life, you will be blown away, right? You think you're like the best person, but there's always someone else better than you out there to like bring it to life, right?
And the big thing is, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room, right? So if you think that nobody can make an amazing, better edit of your videos, well, imagine if they can. And you know what? They will. And then you'll realize, I thought I was damn good. But look at how awesome this is. That's amazing. That should be celebrated. It's not anything negative against you. Someone is just that much better at it. Fantastic. Let them be awesome, because it translates well on you. So I'm fully for hiring people smarter than me all the time. I want to learn from them. I want to level up my skill. I want to learn, they did that B-roll like this with this music behind. I never thought of that. That's really cool to know. Let them be a genius in what they do, because it makes you look like a genius. So, yeah, all for that.
Yeah, I love it, man. This has been I got to do way more of these guest interviews, and you are coming back because you are full of wisdom. But, kind of to wrap it up here, I thought I would love to get your perspective on, like, if you were starting out, like if let's say you had to give advice to yourself at the very beginning of when you started doing on this journey, what would you say to folks? I know obviously things have changed a lot in terms of like I would say the biggest change, in my opinion, in terms of like what has happened in the last 5 years is that creators, in my opinion, are so much more comfortable monetizing, or like starting to do partnerships and like monetize their followers in more direct ways, whether it's Patreon and things like that. There's a much like larger taboo, I feel like, around a lot of this stuff than there is these days. There's so much interest in the creator economy and so much more ways in which you can monetize as a creator. So like, but if you were looking back, like, trying to like put your hand on someone's shoulder right now and giving them advice, what would you say, some things that they should be aware of and should be thinking about?
Specifically for brands, or starting with content?
I would say like monetization, like brand deals, brand partnerships, that type of thing.
So the big thing is that when you are like, if you're starting out, you have to understand, like, basically a lot of what we said earlier is that if you want to get those brand deals, you have to show value. That's the bottom line out of all of this. Now you have to reverse engineer, like, how do I do that? How do I show value? How do I show value of my audience? How do I show value so I can make whoever is signing that check or whoever is sending me that free product, how can I make them look amazing? And once you start finding the balance between those two, that's where it starts to roll. So if you're starting out, get data under your belt. Don't be afraid of the data. Don't be afraid of those numbers. They look scary, but they're so important. Get as much data as you can. Sign up for those affiliate deals. Use Bitly or one of those link shorteners, which gives you stats of how many times people click on a link. That's data. That's important. That's going to help you. That's the one thing I didn't do at the beginning. I wasn't vigilant about keeping that bit of information. So if you are going to, and you start keeping that data and you start using that data in your media pack when you reach out to brands, you're so much better than pretty much, I would say, 90% of the other people who've just said, hey, send me a product for free. I'm an influencer. Hey, let me stay at your hotel. I'm an influencer. If you come into and you go, hey, let me stay at your hotel for free because last month we sold 428 rooms. Guess who they're going to do the deal with, right? Mm-hmm. So keep the data, get as much stats as you can. And you may not look at a huge percentage of that, but it's better to have the data and not need it than need the data and not have it. So get that information under your belt, and that's going to really help you like skip way ahead of that queue.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, just like take one, I think one thing I talk to creators about a lot is that so many creators don't do any sort of like analysis on their performance when they partner with brands, right? Maybe they possibly like, send screenshots of the YouTube analytics or the insights on Instagram or whatever to the brand, but like, that's it. They don't do any sort of analysis of like, okay, how could I perform better? Like you said, collecting data so that it can help you get additional deals. One of my favorite recommendations is like case studies. Make a case study for yourself, right? Like, talk about, get a testimonial from the brand, right? From the agency, right? Like start, developing this catalog of resources when you have a new brand partner reach out, where it's like, oh, you're a CP, you're a consumer packaged goods brand. I have a great case study that I just did a couple months ago from another CPG. Like, because brands, one of the things that I think brands, like creators, don't think about enough is that they want to be able to have some sort of evidence that they can bring back to their superior and be like, hey, we should hire this creator because look how savvy they are, right? And it gives them a warm and fuzzy feeling that the partnership is going to go well. And like, yes, we should help them justify why you should be paying them the rate that you're asking for, right?
Well, and one more power tip, as we're wrapping up here, how many people do a brand deal and go back to the brand a week later or a month later, showing them the results? Probably zero.
Yes.
That's the number. If you're going to be that one person that you've done a brand deal, you got paid for that brand deal, or it was just a product, doesn't matter. But you go back to the person a week, a month, or whatever it is later, and you say, hey, heads up. Thank you very much for including me in your amazing campaign. I just thought you would like to see this. And his screenshots and you highlight your favorite comment and there's all of that in there. So I would love to work with you in the future. Keep me in mind. End of story. What's going to happen when they do their next budgets? You're going to be in there because they're top of mind. They sent the same product to probably 1,000 other creators, but out of 1,000, you were the only one that bothered to come back. That's big value. And especially when it's those bigger deals where they work in quarters, I like to do it just before they kind of think of their next quarter. So just perfect timing. So, hey, the last 2 months, this is what happened with your deal. Just a heads up. When they start thinking of their next kind of list of influencers to work with, well, at least you're in with a chance.
Absolutely. So, man, Liron, this has been incredible. Thank you so much for taking the time today. Let us know in the chat if you guys found this valuable, because I definitely want to bring Liron back at one point. I put his little channel link here, so make sure to subscribe to him. He does amazing stuff. And let me just one more time, I need to pull back up your consulting thing, because man, you guys definitely need to hire him. Let me pull this up real
only
quick.
if you want to make money.
Only if you want. Yeah. So if you don't want to make money, if you are content with the amount that you're making now, just don't hire him at all. He's terrible. So yeah, just lironsegev.com. And yeah, Liron, thank you so much. And
absolutely
subscribe to his channel. There it is. Boom. And then also his podcast. I was just looking at some of these episodes. I want to, like, Liron, introduce me to Kristen, because I would love to have her on this at some point, because I was looking at her Instagram and stuff, and her and her sisters are incredible.
Oh, Six Sister stuff's amazing. Kristen is such an amazing human. It's unbelievable. Here's what you do. Okay, here's how you're going to do this.
All right, here we go.
Basically, get that link to that episode. Tweet me on this on Twitter and say, hey, love this one. Do you think you'll want to be on my... Can I talk to her some more? See? So we're using the power of tagging, getting your radar, and then it's a lot easier to do an introduction.
Love it. There we go. This is next level, y'all. This is next level. And real quickly, there was a comment in here that I loved. Fernanda said that, Justin, you should have Girls Guide to the Drugstore on this live stream about how to interview an editor for your channel. I would love to hear both your takes.
Ooh.
Because Aubrey's my editor. So I love that idea, Fernanda. And definitely, Aubrey, you have no choice now. We're doing this. And I think that'll be a lot of fun. And we can talk about how that will how that has enabled me as well to, like, focus on things of my business that like is my zone of genius, right? And like Aubrey's amazing at editing and like all these things. So I think that's a fantastic idea, and I love how you guys are like dictating my content strategy here. So thank you very much, Liron. Thank you so much for joining us today. Make sure to follow him, guys, and we'll see you next Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. All right, everyone. Talk to you soon.
Thanks very much for having me.
Let me see if I can do, by the way, real quick before I end this, is there like an outro thing on Restream? Let me see. I'm using, what do you guys, by the way, before I leave, let me know in the chat, did you like all this with all the graphics and the captions and being able to highlight people's comments and stuff? I don't think there's an outro thing in Restream. So I guess
there is, you got to start singing. That's how
I have to say, yeah. La, 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 fade to black. La, 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 la. All right, everyone. Talk to you soon.